Now, that's really it. I will disappear. We leave it to you. And thanks again a lot for being with us today.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everyone, for coming and everyone online. It is a very visual show that I'm going to put on now, and I call it a show because it's going to go by very quickly, and I'm going to show you a lot of images. I think because of the subject is art, that sort of is better than hearing just the sound of my voice. So, without further ado, I will. Yeah, I hope to be 40 minutes. It's going to be a push, so get ready, folks. I'm going to share the screen now. So, the art of North Korea, a condensed version, very quickly. So, I'm going to take you through various pieces. This is bit Born into the Revolution, and this little section, sort of 5 minute section, just to give you an idea for those who perhaps are not to or haven't visited North Korea, just to show you the intensity that the individuals go through. Um, as a child, you're brought up, of course, understanding the most important structure in the country, which is that of the leaders. This is imagery here used, an image on the back side there, and that is Manyongdae, the birthplace of Kim Il Sung, and this is children getting a lecture about the birthplace and its importance in society. And just above that picture there would be something very similar to this. This is of the Kim Jong Il's reputed birthplace up in the mountains. This is up in the Mount Pekdu area, and the mountain just to the left of the secret cabin where he was reputedly born is Jong Il Bong. If you look at actually at the portrait there, these are the earlier portraits. They're more affable nowadays. You can see the way it's slightly leaning out from the top, so it's got as omnipresent, if you like, from above. And again, the same sort of scene there. This is Mount Pekdu on the right, top right, with Lake Chon, Jongilbong, the smaller mountain, and the secret camp. This is where the story goes that the three of them will come up to them. Kim Jong Suk, the mother, Kim Il Sung, and son Kim Jong Il fought the Japanese in the guerrilla warfare. This is pre to 1945. And the images are everywhere. The top left is the school on Kim Il Sung Square, the People's Palace of Culture. Sort of sorry, the top of Kim Il Sung Square, the ice ring on the left, a teacher on the right, and the Chopper home around one of the new converted homes on Mire Street. You'll see there's sort of two types of portraits. The older type of portraits I was looking was sort of filtered out around 2010. Now you get the more jolly style. Um, so yeah, the study house, sorry, at the top left. And any sort of images, I'm not going to go on about the leadership here, but just to give you an idea, this is at the mass games. These are children holding card books, which held about up to 150 pages. This was from one of the films we made, A State of Mind, on the mass games, which is a performance to teach the girls and boys to be perfect communists. But if you know, whenever you have the leader be shown, everyone sort of hutches up a little bit closer together, so there's no gaps. So you can see on the right, kids' heads popping up above, and on the left, the perfect image of the leadership. So that sort of puts that into context. And of course, as well as the leadership, the other important things were this is a country that went from occupation, from colonialism, and then in 1945 into a country sort of divided. And then, sort of after the Korean War, 50-53, we've got two sort of big arch enemies. We've had the Japanese before 45. We've now got South Korea, which is sort of after the Korean War, the enemy, the spy camp. And on the right, a little picture here of a magazine of sort of also anti-Americanism. And these remain very strong today in sort of popular culture. This is at one of one of the fairgrounds. This is the one in Manyongdae again, anti-US. And also, sort of, as I just quite sort of pop this in for any American friends there, just to show how the sort of Wolverine-looking sort of hands, hook nose, etc. But you get the idea. So this is in popular culture. everywhere else, the sort of the feeling of propaganda, if you like. And of course, it doesn't come any cleaner than in propaganda posters. And here we have sort of a very early version on the left-hand side. It's not dated, but 50s and very sort of primitive sort of style facial features. And then I think this was very strongly influenced from Russian posters of the time. And then you can see as they sort of become more painterly. But propaganda posters, we're not going to talk about. They are not seen as fine art in North Korea. They're there, they're political messages to deliver a social message, a political message, a message for action, or a message of warning. So they come in all, as I was saying, shapes and sizes. This is how they're used. This is in Pyongyang at a barber shop. This is on the street, and here you can see they're painted in four quarters. These are posted like wallpapers up onto the billboards, which are protected. You can see a little covering from above, and they're lit at night, and they come up to even greater scale. So propaganda posters, very obvious sort of form of propaganda, but the other sort of more subtle ways is starting to use sort of, and what we're going to move into now is the fine art. This is sculpture. On the left, you've got two of the big sculpture pieces, sort of art and reality coming together. This is a photograph I took. This is outside the War Museum of where they have the various sculptures towards the Korean War. The one on the right, the slightly yellowish lino cut, that's of and the anti-Japanese. That's at Kim Il Sung University. Not only in lino cut, but also depicted in ink works. And this is a sort of rather large ink work in the collection. And you get an idea now of the sort of allegorical sort of storyline. You've got in the back the statue of victory, the chap with the flag and his hand out, the victory in the what they call the Fatherland Liberation War. You've got the same sculpture we've seen before, and doves of peace. You've even got the Ryong Hotel, the Triangle Hotel at the very far background. This is before it was completed. Still not completed, but at least the facade is put on. But you've also got you've got modern Korea in the background. You've got the people who fought for you to give you freedom, and you've got the new generation coming through. You've also got, I just noticed today, a small little kid in brown shorts stamping away at the pigeons as opposed to the doves. I don't know if that's meant to represent anything, but there's always a lot to read into these images. And as much this art is also not is showing you the sort of progress that the country has made. This isn't a woman in Los Angeles running off with a TV. It's a sculpture showing how after the post-war. This is in Manstey where the statues of the leaders are. These are two great big flanking sculptures, and showing, of course, the how things have improved and the sort of people wandering off with rice, chickens, and televisions. The improving of the country from sort of occupation under the Japanese, and no more better shown than in this picture by Ri Chang, 1970, quite an early ink work. This is called a Chosenhua, Chosen being Korea in the north as opposed to Hanguk. And here you've got a television with it showing the Cholomer horse, this horse that represented the great movement in Korea of rebuilding the country. In the background, through the window, you've got electricity, you've got the village lit up, and in the foreground, you've got the old man with glasses, sort of provided by the state. Also, perhaps reinforcing the fact that they're literate, literacy improved. You've got the accordion to sort of say that we're a family unit, but also this is bringing in the guests and everywhere else, and that the chap, if you notice, who's got his hand on the accordion, has also got a wristwatch. So there's all sorts of little bits and pieces coming in here that you can spend hours and hours on, sort of trying to figure out what the artist is trying to put together in this story. But it's very allegorical. We've all been brought up with sort of pictures like this, particularly in sort of biblical terms. So um, basically there's one form of art, and that's socialist realism. This is how all artwork, almost all artwork, is shown. There is landscape, and we'll come a little bit into that, but art is there to reshape realities, to sort of bump up reality. The smile becomes the smile of a dentist's convention, if you like, instead of, and the arm comes out like this. So reality into moving into a sort of the reality for the revolution where we want to move to in the future. And the leaders very much involved in art. They understand the importance of art as they're doing as the same in film as at the same time. National Inform and socialism content very much under Soviet sort of similar lines there. So I'll just take a little look just to show you that also the art has to be based in reality in some way for it to become believable. This is a little 1998 piece, and we'll just go into it. So very simple piece to look at immediately that would hit the viewer with the strong sort of characters there to sort of tell you what the story is about. This is the thermal plant in Pyongyang. Um, Moving into it a little bit closer, these boards that appear. So there is a reality. So these boards that appear, this is outside the Cholima Steelworks factory on the west of the country, hanging to Nampo, that there to sort of put on the messages to enforce the if it's a 100-day or 150-day movement to sort of create more product, etc. This is what would greet workers on their way to work. Flowers as well, so that the painted in there. And of course, smoke, billowing smoke. Nothing wrong with a bit of billowing smoke to show factories at work. I always wonder when I'm going around North Korea, there's certain limitations on what you can photograph, and I always thought perhaps that maybe a belching chimney is not something that they want you to take a photo of. But no, please take a photo of our belching chimney industry at work. And I'll take you into the picture because this sort of the reason I've got this one is the little clip here that sort of pulls together reality. And then if you sort of turn up the dial sort of 30%, you get the image that I've just been showing you. So, right, we're doing well. Training.
Yes.
Training. Here we go. Academic style training. Kiosko going on here. This is at the one of the universities, the School Children's Palace. Sorry, School Children's Palaces. Then students will then move on to the Pyongyang School of Fine Arts. This is the academic style training. These people actually can paint. I always slightly worried when you get onto abstract art nowadays that artists in the West, whether we can paint or not. I can tell you that any North Korean artist, he trained in the academic school, the Italian school, if you like, they can paint. This is sort of painting in the landscape. And it's here at university. This guy's wearing his sort of university gear. Girls will be in a sort of black, dark uniform, in a sort of like a chosenbok, but shorter a skirt. And it's here they're taught the ideological and social obligations. It's here where they learn what value art has, and art is for the revolution. If you do well, you'll end up at one of the art studios. This art studio at the moment is under sanctions. It's Manstay Art Studio, but there are several art studios in Pyongyang and also in throughout the hinterland, and as well as colleges. So art, you often will need to replicate posters, etc., in the local area. That will be done by a local team. But Mansudae, Peko, probably one of these are the biggest art studios. This gives you an idea, again, once again, of the leadership. Kim Il Sung on the left, Kim Jong Il in a mosaic up on the right, and below Kim Jong Suk, the mother. Here we go, just to give you a bit of a zoom in. And you have to realize that these are there for your patron. It's the state is the patron. The state comes under, of course, the leadership, the client patron state, if you like. And images of the leaders, perhaps the most important. And there's a little saying here from Kim Jong-il: socialist fine art is the most powerful means of highly praising the revolutionary exploits of an outstanding leader of the working class and defending his absolute dignity and prestige. And these images, I think, may, for those of you who, as we're coming up towards Christmas, may sort of get that sort of idea. We have similar images in the West and in other countries as well. Um, it reinforces the belief, and of course, if it's in art and what have you, we all start believing it a lot more. If it's painted, it must be real. Artists throughout the studies will be at Manchester Art Studio. It's like a collegiate system. I've commissioned work there, so I spent quite a bit of time. And it's meant to be every morning. They start with live drawing classes. This is a live drawing classes. Artists are graded. They become, if they do well, it's in their career, they'll become people's artists, and right up to so merited artists, right up to people's artists. And this is a studio. This is a work that we actually commissioned for a project for that Asia Pacific Triangle in Australia. And this is a studio that is shared with two or three people. So he's sort of moved up. The earlier on, there's sort of several people in a studio, and if you become truly excellent, you get your own studio and other benefits such as yeah, a better accommodation, better food, etc. It's not necessarily a financial incentive. But this is a very beautiful. This is it just gives you actually an idea of how they do these incredible paintings. It goes from sketch form, then into a life scale, sorry, two to scale piece that you see on the right, painted in pencil and charcoal. And then that is sort of sketched, but without line. So you just get the very basics so that when the ink is pasted, there's no sort of lines of pencil where it's been drawn. So it's an enormously sort of long process. This is Chamji paper, mulberry paper that's made in the studio. This is the largest pieces they can make. We got some specifically made here for the this exhibition. And I think if you look here, here is one of the artists. And there's something here that you should notice that if you actually look, he's got Manstay studio on his lapel there. And so what you've got is an artist, but they're actually worker artists. And it is their sort of duty, I've put here, to depict the world within the parameters of a specific ideology. Where those limits are can be pushed. The older you get, you can push and develop your own style. But when you're young, you fit in with the system. You're producing work for the state that follows the prerogatives. You're given briefs from above, and you will fulfill those briefs. You also, as an artist, can go off to the countryside with groups to sketch, to paint, and if slowly you can develop your own styles. But very often it comes from either the leaders' New Year speeches that we're looking at, for example, at the one of the big factories. This might be the steelworks factory. We'll all go off and paint at the steelworks factory, and that year there'll be a lot of steelworks paintings. So you have a certain amount of freedom, but and that sort of increases regards what you're painting, what your compositions are, the older you get. So how are we doing for time? We're doing quite well.
We are
21 minutes.
perfect.
Great.
Yes, great.
Stay with me, folks. So here we are. This is lovely Sonu Young, who sadly died. But this is that example. Here is an artist with a very individual style. His works have been shown in the South, and this is landscape work. Lovely man. So just to give you an example that art you can develop in your own style and your own prestige. And a lovely artist who came, Kim Sun Hui, she actually a Korean but living in Japan, came over with her family in the 60s. We can talk about that at another date. That's a whole other subject. But one of the few female painters, mainly sort of the female artists do tend to sort of sadly sit around with the embroidery, etc. And male artists tend to dominate the oil painting and ink painting. But it's not unusual for female artists to progress through that. So this is ink work. These are Chosenhua, but also they're called Chuchehua, thematic arts, thematic pieces. Each artist will produce one thematic piece, which is almost like a donation to the government to show this is, our wonderful country producing pieces. This is exploration in the mountains. but has that lovely sort of landscape. You know, there are links back to historical art forms in Korea, obviously following the Chinese shan shui sort of style of landscape. The azalea there is a plant is not accidental. It's the plant that re-welcomed back the guerrillas who were fighting the Japanese. The azalea was in bloom reportedly when Kim Il-sung and the guerrillas came back from Manchuria back into Korea. So again, that allegorical bit playing there. This is a little sketch for an oil painting. Here we see the oil painting being completed. Oils are good. I don't collect many of their oils, but because their ink work is so fantastic. But oil painting is quite good. Mosaic work. And here we see a mosaic. This is mosaic. Obviously, the conditions in Korea, as you are living there, are all very well aware. Bitterly cold in winter and very, very hot in summer. So here we have one of the sort of large scale mosaics in Pyongyang. And sculptures. This is up at Samji, right up in the near in the Mount Pektu area. It's one of the girls we filmed for A State of Mind. And again, I'm sort of trying to show you this sort of the sculpture and the reality. So the wood block there, I think the wood block's from the 80s, and the sculpture. So reality again in form and wood blocks and lino cuts. None better shown than by this man, Hwang In-jae. Sadly, also died. Tiny man, gorgeous man, and I've worked with him on several projects. So I've been very lucky in the respect that we visiting North Korea since '93, most months, and on art projects, you know, spending quite a big segments of time commissioning work. Obviously, to commission the work that was over a year, and we're visiting every sort of 2 months. You get to know these artists, and they well, we can talk about it in the question time, but it's when someone, you know, when you know someone well enough, you know, and you know their family, there's all sorts of things you can go out for, you know, meals with them. Things are possible in a very sort of restricted way, but you get to meet people. There's all sorts of little stories I can go on, but we're here, we're working. Um, Abstract art, basically, Kim Jong-il said a picture must be painted so that it can be understood. So immediately, again, that makes me think that all this sort of allegorical art that that's the stuff that people can understand. It's easy to read. It's the sort of baby Jesus sort of pictures that as a kid, I grew up with. Whereas abstract art, no place for that. This is an early artist born Paeon Song, who was born in the south of Korea, now being reinstated in South Korea because he was one of the defector artists. And along with there's a lovely book. This is a nice book by on Lee Kwai-de, another artist who went north. They're slowly getting recognition in the last sort of 20 years. It started to come back. And here you can see there's a slight abstract style. You don't get to see that sort of anything like this coming out now. So an artist must be easily understood. I'll zip through this little section. Here we have this is, I think, one of the school children's palaces. What I rather like here is in summer, even the painting gets a fan. The kids may not, but certainly the painting is well looked after. There is a hierarchy in art, and this is all sort of imposed by the Korean Artists Federation. And I think it's pretty easy to guess what that is: leaders, revolutionary history, infrastructure projects. Before it was unification. That now, in the last 2 years, of those living in South will be very well aware that that's gone. In North Korea, it's actually physically gone. There were two great big sculptures across the road. You'll have seen perhaps the unification arch, and that's been demolished. So we're in times of interesting times. Here we have a 2009 exhibition dedicated to the wonders of the Kim Jong-il. I'm not going to comment. Lots of pictures of Kim Jong-il giving on-the-spot guidance and what have you. Here we have a picture of Kim Il-sung. I think you probably understand why. You see the boots there, the girl being during the Korean War. Sorry, during the Japanese occupation, not the Korean War. This is before that. The literacy rates being so the leader bringing in the new style for the Korean people, and of course the soldier in the background and the white horse. So to a North Korean, very clearly what that image is about. This one, a picture of is actually a picture of Kim Jong-il. He's just driven off, and seeing the villagers. You've got a torch of, I mean, perhaps linked to all sorts of things. The torch of Rama, the torch of the Juche torch. I like the way in the background behind the boy sort of running away, take care, leader, as you drive off on the road, that they've emphasized it with a sort of a twisty turny sign there of beware the road twists and turns. So the love of the people for their leader. And even a picture like this that looks very sort of wintry landscape, very beautiful. If you zoom in on it, you actually get to see this is also about the fighting the Japanese occupation, and it's the trees that are basically have the graffiti put on them, the anti-Japanese graffiti. So another lino cut here, giving you the idea of the mass projects going on. This is following the Nampo Highway from Pyongyang. This is during the arduous march, the period of starvation and economic hardship in the from the 1993 onwards up to 2000. This is the celebration of that road, kind of bumpy road. Um, South Korea, this is a girl, as you can see, wearing Adidas. So this is South Koreans portrayed as sort of following secretly following the North Korean system. There's also lots of reunification pictures. Of course, that's ebbed and flowed, and now very much not the scene. I think we've seen the end of reunification pictures or anything to do with the South, unless it's in a negative light. And landscapes, again, Son Young, one of his lovely pieces. So, embellishing the story, I'm now going to teach you. We've got, how long we got left? We've got 13 minutes. Fantastic. So, I'm now going to teach you all how I think you should become artists in the North Korean way. First of all, understanding that everything is group work. You are not individuals. You're not painting about your life. This is about group work and subject matter. Most art will come under these sort of headings. I'm not going to go through them all, but I think you get the idea. Our country lives are best, infrastructure projects, mining, fisheries. You can pretty much group most of art under these headings. Certainly, individual work is allowed in the respect that you go off and you're there to produce, to learn to be an artist, and that goes throughout your life. So when you go to the countryside, you are practicing, sketching, what have you. But the finished piece will be a piece that is about group work, either sort of looking forward towards the revolution or looking back at, how tough times were. So if you are painting, I suggest lots of food, new equipment, chuck in an accordion, make everyone sort of happy, generically smiling. In the picture there, rice planting, everything's mechanized, everything's great. There's a lovely little breeze blowing. Everything is good. Don't forget to shove in a bit of what I think is called pastoral nationalism. I love that. Natural landscape and seascapes, yeah, which show the beauty of Korea, but also our independence, the independence of Korea. And here you have sort of a girl, sort of goat farmers, students coming up from the goat farm, all very jolly. The joy of teamwork, that you are not an individual, that you sacrifice yourself, the valor of labor, heading off in the rice fields. And these girls with their cleaning machine just celebrate everyday life. The joy that we see here in Paris is exactly the same. Everyone going off cleaning the street, full of joy. It's a typical day serving the state and her people. If you're going to show, the other one I suggest is that you use stoic sort of, this is when we made films, when we made Comrade Kim Goes Flying, the acting tends to be very sort of theatrical acting. If it's a sort of stress and strain, and this same in the art, it's slightly over exaggerated, heroic style. Individuals here, this is all sort of prop it up. This is a girl beating a man in an arm wrestle. You know she's going to win. This is again building that Nampo Highway. We talked about that big sort of red lino cut. So emphasized with slogans so that you make sure you get the message very quickly. This is the building of the Mayday Stadium, Rungado Stadium, and the boy gets the girl. Sacrifice yourself, heroic. I'll just go into this one a little detail. Here you see an individual. He's obviously the girl, the very beautiful girl, is giving him a gift of flowers. There's the engine, the traction, and the train behind him has got little red stars that represent 50,000 kilometers without an accident. There's the emblem there of the country. And perhaps if you also see to behind him is the elder man, almost in a Confucian way, giving him respect. Here's my favorite bit of the whole show coming up. So fantastic. I think that's enough of that. Moving on. Show the individual. It's sort of a bit of a paradox. You've got to be careful because there are only some individuals in North Korea. And we know who they are. But I think if it's the individual is representing the team, that's the idea. That also that the characters that they're showing are wholesome, beautiful, wonderful people. Because that I think we link to good health, honesty, etc. But it is difficult. So you can have an individual in as much as is an individual with his work team very closely attached behind him. So many images will have it's not just an individual hero, but it's the whole team has worked up to produce that. And on individuality, there's a little clip here. I hope for those of you online get to see it. But I thought it was important because to me, this was one of the most amazing interviews we had with Kim Song Young when we were filming A State of Mind. And it's about individuality and perhaps sacrificing your individuality.
내가 이렇게 오래 있을 때는 유치원에서도 이렇게 자식 생활 하기 싫어서 도망치고 이렇게 중학교에 올라와서부터는 이렇게 어전에 나와서 공부하고 어휘에 구력배가 됐습니다. 그때는 언니들이 많았습니다. 내가 어릴 때니까 언니들이 많았는데 언니들이 책임지고 할 때도 있었습니다. 그때는 언니들이 나보고 못한다고 이렇게 욕하고 하기 시작하니까 그냥 도망칠 생각밖에 없겠는데 내가 기술을 좀 발전해서 행사 명단에 들어갔을 때였습니다. 그 집단체전은 한 명이 안 하고 집체를 맞추는 동작이니까 힘들긴 힘들어도 이렇게 동무들하고 같이 하니까 집단력도 진짜 생기게 되고 자유주의라는 거 완전 없어집니다.
Group power develops and individualism completely disappears. We're coming towards the end now, but that is, I think, one of the most important things, that this is not about the individual, this is about the group. Art is there, it creates role models, heroism in the everyday life of people. And that even if you're a sort of a basic worker, that you are given a place in society. And it's art that we in Britain used to sort of portray in the sort of Victorian times in sort of form of social realism. But this is sort of socialist realism. It's sort of upping them up a bit. Here, a female worker and a male driver, just sort of shown sort of in the construction industry. How everyone, no matter how low you are part of society and an integral part of society. Finishing off this sort of how to become an artist, I thought this is a lovely little picture. Here we have two images that, to all intents and purposes, look the same. We've got a fish farm and a goat farm. But if you look at the way on the left, the way they're holding the paper compared to the way they're holding the paper on the right is a local paper. the left is the workers' paper. And of course, it's held this way because it's got the leader there, Kim Jong Il, in bold and what have you. So just little bits and pieces as an art sort of historian to look out for. A lot of art uses props, and these are sort of liner cuts, and it's whether you're sort of doing a wind farm or polishing something. That seems to be quite a way to get through and produce various bits of art. Think of someone and what they do. The subject matter is also very similar. This is rice and corn. Everything is well, everything is good. Different mediums producing really images of the same context. And even so, 10 years apart, here you have almost Songun, the army first sort of policy coming, the army helping here with the rice and also with the rice plantation. And we're finishing up. So I'm not going to make many comments on this, but here is a picture of liner cuts. This is the good harvest. And then the reality, perhaps not as sort of good as sort of as the art reflects, the landscape, the sort of and the reality. This is interesting. This is sort of period just the 2000s. You already see the terracing, which we didn't used to have in the country in sort of when I first visited. But of course, with the hardship, with 80% mountainous landscape is being sort of used in any part form to produce agriculture. And the painting, a very rare painting here, showing actually, the beforehand in comparison to the other one I've just shown of the bumper harvest. This is a very clear messaging here. Don't waste. But there is reality in the art as well. I think I love these two images coming together. A little liner cut with May Day there in Tayson Park. So reality and art, the message has to be believable. And we are guilty of this. We do exactly the same. Here we have everyone happy at work. I mean, it's like a typical day for you all at work. Isn't it great? There's nothing like I've just finished the olive harvest and in Abruzzo, and the joy of actually 2 hours working a day. I tell you, it doesn't happen. But when someone comes out with a camera, the whole family will be smiling and happy. So for that 1 minute, you get your socialist realism minute, whilst you're stinking of oil and covered and knackered and wanting to go home. But I think this is really sort of ending it now. I've got a little 3 minute piece if I'll be given the time. Have I got? I have. I got 2 minutes. But that is North Korean art as you will have seen it, and if you do get any exposure to it, this is what it is, and it sort of begs the question, really, is this art? Is this a system that we can take art from? Is there because in the West we like our art to be individual. This is art almost going back to the Pope and whoever giving out commissions. Is that art? Do we trust these artists? Is it just replicating a political message? So we can talk about that, but perhaps in answer to it all, I would say absolutely yes. And the reason why I say yes, it is art, is because, as Monty Python says, and now for something completely different. Going against the grain, and this is a little message from Kim Jong-il, art's not related with the revolution. Art for its own sake is useless. We come across these pieces, which are individual pieces that I've managed to find from artists, and this is from artists' homes. It's their individual work, and I remember a lot of these artists also coming from the south of Korea. When the country split, they went to the north, either voluntarily or via other sort of ways that they're taken. And they went north, a lot of them, because of this dream of a utopia, this new people's paradise. And these are just some of these works to give you an idea of humanity, of individuality. This is 1964, a little piece at home. Kumgensang Mountains, but exploring that in different color palettes. Obviously, someone having a go at something extremely different. So these are sketch works. They're small pieces, but personal study works. And now we come on to, I'm ending now, but we come on to one artist who I absolutely adore. This is Mr. Hong sort of painting. This is he works with palette knife. He was trained in South Korea under Peon Song and Lee Kwai-de. This is such an intimate little scene here. This is a mother and daughter, and you can almost see the plaits in her hair. She's washing her sort of washing her hair, and mum washing the clothes, beating the clothes with a stick. Superb piece. Um, Here we have him, Hong Jong-won, 1928 to 2004. Sadly, I never met him. This is a full-size painting, and on the reverse is this, which is interesting. So this is how I sort of look at lucky enough to have these pieces, to own these pieces, or to sort of own them until they get passed on as a collection. That's what we're sort of trying to work out at the moment. But it's looking at this piece, for example. I haven't got a clue what's going on. I'm still trying to work it out. In the picture behind is the first sketch for this piece. This is, I think, what he wanted to work on, but then realized the composition was wrong. But the woman behind the tree, the man sort of looking, both of them almost as a unit. And yet, as you come to the second piece, so there you have the sort of composition set out, sort of quite a relaxed scene. But here you have such a more tense. Something else is going on, and you look at this palette work, the colors that are going on there. This is 1983, and I just think it's absolutely spectacular. So, there's a joy almost in both the sort of academic work, the academic socialist realism work, which contrasts so greatly with this sort of pieces. We know this man can paint, and yet here he is doing something absolutely extraordinary. I'm going to end now, perhaps with one last slide, which is we did a couple of books for on lino cuts, one for Phaidon. And this was a little piece that I found amongst another little collection. And on the back is written "Memories of the Girl." And it's very clear that, it's a man who was at some time in love and is remembering it's either his wife or maybe not his wife, but it's certainly a very, very personal piece. So I'm going to stop now. I was going to show you a little clip of the collection. I don't know if have we got a minute or not? Ask the boss.
A minute, yeah. They're all nodding here. Yes, we can see them.
Okay, well, this is just to show you what it's like. So this is really the next stage, which is I'm trying to find a place to keep the art, and I hope it's a little video. It's of my home in China, just to give Antonio and myself sort of live for several years and give you what it's like. A carefully curated collection, it is not, but it is trying to get there. So here we go. This will end us. The jazz. The question sort of now is what to do with that collection. I've stopped the share, and I'll hand you over. That was our film by Andrea Cavarotti, who's done a lovely book on photographs of Beijing. Some of you will know him. Lovely man. Been in China since the 70s. Thank you very much, gang.
Thank you very much.